Here are 35 online reviews of the audiobook titled, Can't Hurt Me. Written by David Goggins. Narrated by David Goggins and Adam Skolnick. 1. Not for me. This is not the first time I've purchased a very highly rated self-help book through Audible and then disliked and returned it. This book just didn't do it for me, but obviously, with 67,000 5-star reviews, I'm in the minority here. 2. Self-worship is an understatement. I admire the effort David Goggins has put into his endeavors. I am glad that he overcame everything in front of him. I think he has some good stories, but to say the book is self-worship is an understatement. Maybe that type of self-aggrandizement is helpful for some listeners, but honestly it became tiring halfway through. I begrudgingly finished the Audible because I was so motivated by the book to push through torture. Thanks David. 3. Opting for the book instead. The audiobook is unique in that in between reading chapters, the narrator/co-author interviews David. Overall, it's interesting as a break between chapters. I'm actually returning the audiobook and buying the book instead because there are exercises after every chapter, photos referenced, and there was no audiobook supplement. Feel like that was a major miss that should be rectified for this audiobook. 4. Master your mind. The most powerful people are not the ones who control others, it is those who can control themselves. Thank you David for sharing your story. 5. This guy will change your life. I first heard about David Goggins through Joe Rogan's podcast. I've listened to his interview with him at least a dozen times. Through following David Goggins on social media, I learned he was writing a book. After much anticipation, the audiobook is finally out. I've already pre-ordered my Kindle copy from Amazon once the book is officially released December 4th. I have no doubt that this audio version will be on repeat. This guy has put so many mantras in my head that constantly motivate me to get after it. I've even considered getting a tattoo of uncivilized, something that David explains, somewhere on my body to always remember to be unstoppable and be hungry for more. I hope his words will inspire you to find out something you don't already know about yourself. They have for me. David, if you're reading this, thank you. You've certainly made an impact on my life. 6. Got me out of my own head. Amazing. Amazing audiobook unlike any other I have heard. While it is an audiobook, it also offers elements of a podcast. Truly engaging and forced me to look at my problems and challenges in life in a very different way. 7. Delusions and distortions. I didn't like how the story was told. With a constant focus on disadvantage points, not following a chronological order, and constantly inviting people to push themselves, even with injuries in their bodies. The end is funny, with the author being so good that even his God has to reevaluate the plans made for him. Discipline wins over motivation. Thousands have said it before Goggins. There is nothing new in this book. 8. Life-changing. I'm only halfway through this listening to this book, it's simply life-changing. David tells it like it is, no more BS excuses for whatever you're using them for. Thank you for putting this book out here to help us, sir. 9. Stay hard. Goggins is one of a kind. There is no one better at helping you understand how to maximize your potential, how to not limit yourself, how to get and stay hard. I will read/listen to anything involving Goggins and have been waiting for this book since it was announced. If you've heard/read about living with a SEAL, David Goggins is the unnamed Navy SEAL in that book. Now you can finally hear his full story. Get this without thinking twice. 10. Not an audiobook. After each chapter there is an equal amount of back and forth bro talk style banter between David Goggins and his ghost writer. For some it might be interesting to get deeper into the story. For me it was unbearable because of the changes in rhythm. David Goggins' story is very interesting, but the number of times he says you just gotta do this, and the conversational style of communication during the bro talk breaks makes the book seem trite. I'll try to get through it again when it comes out without the banter. 11. I wanted to love it. I really did not enjoy the reading/podcast format, actually I hated it. It took away from your ability to immerse yourself in the story and the events happening in the moment. There is no doubt that David Goggins is a tough emperor, but for me, someone writes a book like this to give something more than just their story. It felt like a money grab, like someone went back and fucked around with the book to sell it more. There wasn't much substance to it beyond some really sad, some really tough, and frankly some really dumb stories. No offense, but who does a 100-mile race completely unprepared and ends up pissing blood and hospitalized. That is not mental fortitude, it is not inspiring, it's just dumb. I would have left that story out. There is no doubt that David Goggins survived a tough childhood and adolescence, and he made something better of himself. For that and for his service, he deserves props. Overall, this book is a good story of perseverance, overcoming difficulty, etc., so if you need a pump-me-up kind of book, then this is for you. Beyond that, there wasn't a lot of depth or actionable content, just some weak attempts guided by #suggestions. I didn't hate his story, but the book just felt a little dishonest in its delivery. 12. Ed. The book is entertaining if you're interested in soft military life. I enjoyed the SEAL stories regarding training, etc. The bulk of the book, though, seems to be David complaining about his conditions. While his accomplishments are quite astounding, they're not limited to him. Many people have accomplished the same things. The only reason they seem outstanding from his perspective is because he failed to properly prepare. He further says that anyone can accomplish great things because it's mostly a mental attitude, which I agree with, but then states that you're not him, and he's special. 13. Overcoming all obstacles. I like the format of this audiobook. It combines Mr. Goggins himself, Mr. Skolnick, a narrator/collaborator, Mr. Goggins' autobiography, his self-analysis, a podcast format, and guidance for readers who wish to improve their lives. The interaction between Mr. Goggins and Mr. Skolnick adds a fresh element to the entire presentation. Clearly, Mr. Goggins has confronted and overcome significant obstacles in his lifetime and can serve as an inspiration to all of us. That said, not everyone will feel the need to take self-improvement to the nth degree, as did Mr. Goggins. I was somewhat put off by his drive to compete constantly. It didn't seem like Mr. Goggins striving to be the best left much time for a personal life. But his path doesn't apply to everyone, though aspects of it surely do. The story of his life still has much value for readers and listeners. I'm glad I listened to his book. 14. Not for me. I've been an athlete my whole life and have been pretty successful. I'm super competitive and I still train and compete. Throughout the years I've listened to motivational speakers to help get my mind right when I'm feeling down or need a pick-me-up. This book was not motivational at all. If you have no base of being motivated, maybe it'll work for you. A lot of cussing, didn't like the switching between the book and a one-on-one with the narrator. Hey, this book could be for some people, but not for everyone. Don't be convinced with all the positive reviews. 15. Looking into the mirror. Holding yourself accountable. David Goggins is an American hero. I am grateful to him and others for serving our country and fighting for our freedom. Thank you, David, for telling it like it is and showing everyone else that they are their own hero, they are held accountable. Celebrate your small successes and get after it, just understand it will be the hardest thing you have ever done because you are in your own way. No excuses, doesn't matter who you are. Period. 16. Book of the Year. This book is must-read for everyone who want to be better version of themselves. David is the real-life superhero for everyone who has verbalized or having hard times for life, because David has conquered the real-life hell. Thank you, David, for everything you had changed my life and my mindset. 17. Resilience at a Cost. Pretty inspiring story given the background. Lost track of how many times the dude divorced and he didn't mention much about being a present father. I can't get over him sacrificing that for what seems like selfish accolades. 18. What an amazing book. Thank you, David. What an amazing book. Raw and uncut. You are the face of veterans around the world. I love what you do and thank you for being such an inspiration, battle buddy. You are mine, thanks brother. Godspeed. 19. Interesting story, needed a better writer. Inconsistent advice, not as inspiring as I had hoped. I think it is worth listening to as more of an interesting biography, not a motivational book. He overemphasized his training while his personal relationships always fell apart. That makes me question his values. 20. I can't. I selected this book because it appeared to be interesting and that it might just be. Unfortunately, I can't listen to it. It's aggressive, too much unnecessary cursing. His voice is strong and aggressive. I understand his strength, power, and the pain. I would love to hear the story but can't bear all the cussing, disturbs my spirit. Wishing you great success. 21. Language was terrible. Only made it through the first few minutes. We often listen to books while driving. Definitely not suitable for children's ears. 22. Great will to strive for excellence, but Mr. Goggins has a great story to tell and is one of the toughest men alive, at least the first of the book say that. But you don't have to drop the F-bomb all the time. I only made it 1/4 the way through and I had enough. Mr. Goggins, there is a way to keep the audience captured, but dropping the F-bomb turned me off and I will never hear the full story. 23. Boring and lack of interest. So much disappointing. The reader keeps a boring tone of voice, repeating vulgar language, and the story is far from interesting. Keeps repeating the same story all the time. 24. One piece missing for me. I love the book. Yes, truly inspirational. It covered how David overcame monumental obstacles and hurdles, successes and failures. I know guys that have done Ironmans and Ultras, David a beast, they couldn't come close to matching his athletic feats. But one major item was missing for me. How is it you open your inner soul to the world, yet not talk about relationships, a failed marriage, and how you overcome that? I guess there's still some things too painful to discuss in public. Not a criticism, I respect the need for privacy, just an observation. Can't hurt me? Not true. 25. Great message and incredible story. The story and message of this book is great. However, if the author said "Damn Goggins" one more time, I would have thrown my phone out of the car window. Definitely worth the listen and offers a great perspective on how to live each day of your life. 26. Swearing every line doesn't command respect. Narcissists unite and cheer about how great you are now. And massive victim ego thinking it found God in itself. You too can be great. Like me. Refund please. 27. Fantastic and creatively presented. I have been waiting for this book after hearing Goggins on Joe Rogan's podcast and following him on Instagram. I listened to the book during a trail marathon today, which replaced my listening to the podcast in a 50-miler last month. Love the book and its autobiographical content and call to action for its listeners, but what I didn't expect is the creative presentation. After each chapter, the narrator and Goggins discuss each chapter and Goggins offers personal stories and insights. I think even those who are not currently followers will appreciate the humble "this book isn't about me, it's about the reader taking action" theme. My only disappointment will be when it ends, but I guess that's when we need to put those words into action for our own betterment. Can't recommend it enough. 28. Dear God. David is one crazy man. This is an insecure man, no matter how secure he claims to be. He's been married twice and, apparently, will be married a third time for a reason. I have this weird feeling that he might be a fitness freak after age 55, and I like his messages about how overcoming your fears involve facing them and being tired is not an excuse for quitting. Sadly, I do think that not resting hurt him. I also do not think that he will find any peace in his life, and he needs to think about life after age 50 also. If he no longer has fitness, I think that he will be in ruins. 29. Inspiring, but a bit much. This book is truly inspiring, and what this man has accomplished is incredible and worth a read. That said, it's not very deep, and no one is more impressed with these feats than the subject himself. The format of podcast/interview adds little to the book besides another opportunity for Goggins to gloat. 30. Drawn out bragging. Honestly, there were a lot of great things about this book, and Goggins definitely got me motivated. However, most of the book is him telling everyone how great he is, and how he has it harder than everyone else. It's hard to get past. Also, I had a really hard time finishing the last 3 HRS. The stories are way too drawn out. 31. Sadomasochistic life. I understand he was abused, but he never mentioned getting help for those obvious mental scars he's carrying around, and as a result he now abuses the women in his life, as he is completely self-centered with anything he does and appears to think of anyone offering help is just out to get him. 32. Misogyny in need of a good therapist. You dig in deep before realizing he is laser focused on physical goals at the expense of those around him, with little human connection, leaving me to wonder if he will be left with anything more than stories and a broken body as time passes. I can drop F-bombs and swear with the best of them. What I couldn't get past was how often he referred to himself or anyone else exhibiting weakness as a vagina or pussy. I hope his next book is he learning to overcome the mental hurdles of a lifetime of misogynistic role models rather than solely overcoming the physical ones. 33. Amazing story. I never really stopped to look at my life and all of the screw-ups and successes that made me who I have become. I always knew that life is a giant mind game, but never really capitalized on failure. Thank you, David, for this book. At 45 years old, I am trying to change from the person who complained about all of my failures to the person who accepts defeat and attacks again. 34. Goodness. I love this book. This is hands one of my favorite book of all times. I can't really tell you how inspired I am. Wow. 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 Face your fears, don't run from them, conquer them. Thank you so much, David Goggins. Hashtag can't hurt me. 35. Changed my life. I loved it. I was a completely different person prior to listening to this book. I followed the rules in the book and have completely turned my life around. Thank you for watching. Please, do not forget to subscribe, like and share this video. Tune in for more online audiobooks reviews.